Hey YouTubers, welcome back to professional video production on a shoestring budget. Today I want to talk about shooting wildlife on a shoestring budget. It really adds to a documentary production or that type of show if you have some nice sexy wildlife shots in there. We've all seen stuff like this, the elusive cougar or the grizzly bear, and the cameraman's right there, and it looks pretty dramatic. Well, those shots are pretty tough to come by. I tell you, you could spend your whole life in the forest and never find a cougar in the wild. This is a trained animal. You can see his trainer periodically popping up and putting out the treats so that the cat comes where the cameraman wants him so he can get the shot. This was an expensive day. This was a very expensive day, and certainly not on a on a shoestring budget. But you can get those shots. You have to know where the wildlife are, and then go there to get the shot. Over the years, I've done a lot of it. I've done a lot of wildlife shooting on Vancouver Island, and we lived on a Gulf Island for many years in the southern Gulf Islands and close to the ocean. So the opportunity to shoot eagles and heron and other birds and seashore wildlife was right at my back door. So over the years, I took advantage of that. And I got some great material over the years. One summer, a friend of mine lent me a 400mm lens that was adapted to a Betacam. And I got some great shots that I'm going to show you in this segment. So the first thing is you have to learn, do some research, and learn where the wildlife are going to be and when they're going to be there. So usually with wildlife, it's cyclical. You have to find out their mating seasons or whatever. Eagles, for instance, I've got a lot of great eagle stuff, and because I was close to a lot of eagle nests, and I knew when they would be nesting, and I could go and easily find an eagle's nest and get some great shots. This particular nest, I found a vantage point. And I followed this nest over the period of a month with this 400mm lens, and I was able to get some shots of the eaglet as it got bigger. Now, this is certainly not run and gun kind of shooting like I normally do. It requires time, and more importantly, it requires a lot of patience. You've got to be prepared to set up the camera for hours, maybe just to get one shot. You have to wait for the wildlife to come to you, or in the case of things like eagle, hawk, in the case of predators, I'd have a shot of an eagle sitting on the edge of its nest, and I'd want to wait till the eagle flew off. That would be the shot I'd want. I'd want to see the eagle taking off. Well, sometimes I would just wait for it seemed like ever, but it's a predator. They're not in a big hurry. They're not afraid of anybody, so they're on their own timetable. Same thing with this pileated woodpecker. I saw this pileated woodpecker in my tree, and he was right there. He was like, at one point, I was 10 feet away from this bird. He didn't care. He was just going about his business, going for the bugs. That's the bigger animals. When you get into the smaller animals, especially the prey animals, they're a bit more skittish. You have to be, you have to sort of figure out where they're going to be. In the case of birds, you can put a bird feeder out and get shots of them actually at the feeder, but they'll also congregate in that area. So it's a good way to get shots of the birds in the branches and stuff. But you have to be quick because, the little prey animals, they tend to move quickly. Rabbits and other kinds of animals. Living in the Gulf Islands, again, I had the opportunity to shoot a lot of deer, a lot of black-tailed deer. They were coming into our yard all the time, constantly. So I took advantage of that, and I got some great material. These kinds of wildlife shots, they're not that unique and they're not that valuable, but they're in my library. I own them, and I can use them in any production I choose. And that, for me, that has a lot of value because, as I said, if you're doing a documentary, I'm working on a documentary right now, as I said earlier, on a river, a local river. And so it is an environmental theme. So when I'm doing my segues, going from segment to segment, And I'll be able to use some wildlife shots as well as the river shots to flush those segues out. And it'll really help the project a lot. It'll really kind of flush it out. Keep your eyes open for wildlife. You know, you might be shooting something different, but if you see an eagle or a falcon or something and you can get the shot and stick it in your library. You never know. When I was set up shooting this eagle's nest with this fabulous, the 400mm lens was just a beautiful lens. It was a fixed lens, so it wasn't a zoom lens, but it was a very nice lens. When I was shooting the eagle's nest, I looked over and there was a mother deer with her Bambi, with a fairly young deer. I swung the camera over, and in a moment of serendipity, I just got a great shot of this young deer, and I was able to get my focus and beautiful lighting and you know, just a fabulous shot. When you're shooting wildlife, you don't want to chase it with the camera too much. And I'll let that Bambi shot run. As soon as he left the frame, I panned the camera quickly to try to, you know, get more of the shot. And you can see it was a bit of a dog's breakfast. I never really got anything after that. So concentrate on wildlife, getting in there quickly, focusing, getting a shot, and then don't chase it. Get your shot. And if your subject, the deer, the bird, is going to leave the frame, let it leave the frame. And then look for the animal and maybe reframe and maybe get another shot. But that's what I found works for me. I like things to enter and leave the frame. It tells more of a visual story when you're in editing. So there you go, guys. Shooting wildlife on a shoestring budget. I hope that helps you somewhat. So here's some footage I've shot with my new camera, my Sony V1U HDV in the 16:9 format. Looks pretty good. Amazing to compare the two. All the other footage I've shown you is from my old Betacam BVP 70, standard def. Back in the day, that camera, lens, and deck probably cost $60,000 in the 90s, and look what you can get for $3,500 with the V1U. Pretty amazing. And even if all you can do is go to a zoo or go to a wildlife refuge, you know, take your camera and your tripod. You want your tripod when you're shooting wildlife, and get some wildlife shots and stick them in your library. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Next time, I'm going to talk about some important tools for when we're shooting in the field, a rain cover for your camera, and my homemade underwater box, the box I use for shooting underwater. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.